Hello and welcome back to another tutorial. I actually started to record this tutorial and I couldn't find the hanger. So I am reattempting this tutorial now that I know what I'm doing. It's pretty bad if you're trying to give a tutorial and you don't know what you're doing. Alright, so today we're going to learn about Streks, or as most Americans and most English speakers call them, fighters. Fighter planes, and they're very fun and cool to add to your ship. By the way, if you have a starter ship, you cannot put Streks on it because you have no spots. The quickest way to tell is to click on your ship, go to the information panel using I, and you will see right here, ship class, battleship, hangar, 15 out of 16, because I've already put fighters on my ship, but I will show you how to do that. So we've got a spot on our ship available. Out of 16, I've only got 15. I'm going to fill up that last spot. How about it? So what I'm going to do is first, I'm going to purchase a Streks. Now in our previous tutorial we learned how to use the market. However, I will guide you through it one more time. To use the market, it is best to just click on your flight center, go over here to the market tab, click C, or just click on the icon. We're going to change it to all market. I recommend always doing this unless you really just want to buy something where you're located, because you're going to find the best deal doing this. Now we're going to go down to Streks, or fighters as the normal person calls it. You're going to look through all these cool fighters. There's lots of options. It might be a little overwhelming at first and you're asking yourself, well, which one of these do I want? The way that I did it was I looked up the fighter, I looked up the engine. It uses IMA, which is the most basic resource that you can extract this as a noob using a settlement. You don't need to upgrade your settlement or anything. IMA comes straight out of the ground. Think of it like crude oil. Fuel 1 out of 60. It's currently holding Imanol ether, which is a more refined IMA, but you can put IMA in it. It will go slower, but it will work just fine. Speed 147 at 56% to blah 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 blah. Range, this is how long it can fly with a full tank. And this is the weight. Each fighter does add weight and takes up cargo capacity, even if it doesn't actually take up a cargo spot. Streks is in good order, engine is in good order. Something that I learned just a few nights ago when I made a mistake of buying a whole bunch of these was just because it's bigger doesn't mean it's better for you. This here is a torpedo fighter. It does not fit on this particular ship. Now there are guides on Steam letting you know what kind of Streks will fit in what kind of ships. I strongly recommend you look at those. Unfortunately, there's no quick information panel that will tell you what kind your ship fits. But it can tell you at least the Mammoth will only fit fighters, it won't fit bombers. So we're going to go to Harpy. It's a biplane bomber. The one I ended up going with was the Drake, mainly because, well, this one has Imanol, but it takes IMA, which is like crude oil, again. Has a 140 machine gun, which is a very small machine gun, but the ammo for it's extremely cheap. It is a short flight, but it's a super cheap fighter. It's the basic fighter, and it just happens to be what I'm flying. So we're just going to go with it. You don't have to buy this. Feel free to look around and find what fits your personal preferences the most. Before I buy it though, again, just like in our earlier tutorial, I'm going to make sure I know where it is. In this case, the fighter is available right here in this settlement. So I'm going to click on it. I'm going to buy it. And now the closest one is far away, but there it is in this settlement again. That's because this particular item is built by the AI and it will refresh every second. We're going to close the market. Now, if I go to my warehouse, hey, there's no fighter. Where did it go? Did I just buy something and it disappeared? Again, this is something that new players run into, including myself when I first started. Easy to find it. You just click on your flight center, hit the letter K, or you can open your hangar from here, and there is my fighter, as well as one that I already placed in here earlier so that I could do this tutorial. So you're asking yourself, how do I place my fighter from the hangar into my ship. Because if I click my ship, boom, the hangar disappears. If I open the hangar for my ship and try to open the hangar for the flight center, it still disappears. How in the heck am I going to get my fighter from here to my ship? I kid you not, I worked for 3 hours trying to figure out this problem, only to discover it's as easy as dragging the fighter right onto your ship. So I'm going to drag the fighter that's already refueled and everything straight over to my ship. Actually, you know what? I'm not. Cancel. I'm going to drag the new one over so you can see the process of refueling and rearming a fighter. So here's my new Strek. I know this is new because it's got 0 out of 50 fuel, and range is 0 because it has no fuel. If I launched it, it would fall to the ground and explode. I'm going to drag this over. You'll see a green box around your ship. Usually you want to drag it onto the balloon. That's the hull of your ship for some strange reason. I'm going to release, drag 1 of flight center, meaning it's in the flight center, and I want to drop it in my Mammoth with this serial number. Yes. And lo and behold, my Mammoth is now full because I added that final fighter. Of course, if your ship is empty, you're going to need to buy up enough fighters to fill it up. If you can't afford enough, just buy as many as you feel you can afford. There's no minimal. You can have 1 fighter in your hold if you want. Alright, so there's my new fighter. They do not come with serial numbers, so you're just going to have to click around until you find the fighter that has 0 fuel. Now we're going to refuel it, but wait! It's not as easy as just clicking on Fuel the Strek. It is for me because I have the materials, but for you, the starting player, you're going to need to buy those materials. If you look in my ship, you'll see that I have Imanol, I have Ima, I have boards. By the way, you might want to write this down. Ima, boards, iron, plywood panels, sheet iron, and of course ammunition for your particular weapon type of that fighter. Now, this is a lot of stuff to remember, I know, but in order to repair your ship, you need to have all these items to repair those fighters. Otherwise, if they take damage and they land on you, there's nothing much you can do to repair them until you have these. Even if you're landed in a flight center and your Streks are in the flight center, you still need all these materials in order to repair them. So, I've got all my materials, including my Ima and Imanol, which is think of it like low-grade unleaded fuel. Imanol is sort of the middle-range fuel, and the high-grade fuel, which is like the 91 octane, is called I'm on it. It sounds like the words I'm on it, but it's AYMONIT. And that's your high-grade fuel. They burn through it pretty quick, but it's pretty amazing stuff. So anyway, I'm just using Imanol and Ima for the purposes of this tutorial. Alright, now that I have all that on my ship, I'm not going to explain to you how to buy those materials because you should already know how to use the market at this point. Just go to All Market, Resources, buy whatever you need to buy. You can get Ima here, and the more refined stuff, Imanol Ether, and Imanol is available under Materials, assuming that those are on the local market. This is a completely player-driven economy, so if you're in a remote area and it's not available, it doesn't mean it's nowhere, it just means it's nowhere in range of you. So I strongly recommend you do all of your Strek purchasing in a large area. In my case, I am in Citadel, which is sort of the Russians' center of commerce. It takes a long time to fly here, but it's worth it at the moment until Nargval and Baragor get a little bit more built up. Okay, sorry, I'm talking a lot. Let's click on our new fighter. There we go, tank is empty. Range is 0. First thing we're going to do is we're going to fuel the Strek. Now, a glitch I ran into is if you start to refuel your Strek, by the way, it says 1 minute and 15 seconds to put this type of fuel in. Same for this type of fuel. The type of fuel does not determine how long it takes to refuel. That's done with skills, which I'll show you in a moment. So I'm going to refuel it with Ima, the cheap stuff, because I'm a cheapie. And you'll notice that it's counting down now 1 minute, 9, 8, and so on. Once that finishes, my Strek is refueled. If you're a starting player with no skills, your refuel time is about 2 minutes. Skills will cut it down to about 1 minute and 20 seconds, which in combat can mean life or death. So now it's refueling. Oh, and by the way, I ran into an issue where if you take off in your ship while it's refueling, it pauses the refueling process and you have to start over again and you lose that IMA. So if you're refueling, either be in air already before you start or be on the ground and don't leave. We're going to let that refuel, and while it's doing that, I'm going to show you these quick skills down here called refuel, reload, and repair. Pretty self-explanatory skills. Refuel, the more skilled you are in it, the faster your ship refuels, 50% faster at max. Reload, also 50% faster at max. And repair, which I believe is also 50% at max. I've only got level 1, because repair isn't as important to me. And then air traffic controller, if you plan to do PvP, I strongly recommend you learn this skill to max because you want to get all of your Streks out as quick as possible. If you're going to be flying something that's only holding 2 Streks, maybe that's not such an important skill, but the Mammoth holds 14, which means I really don't want to wait 10 minutes to get all my Streks out. Alright, so clicking on my Mammoth, you'll see that there's no more processes, so it's finished refueling. However, I do not have ammo. It says ammunition, 1-40 pound charge, C1 40, 0 out of 320 rounds. So I need to load it. Unfortunately, that information is not displayed here. I hope they add that because it's kind of silly that I can see the fuel here, but to see ammo I have to click on the info. As you can tell, I'm not a GM, I'm just a player, so my complaints are just like your complaints. Alright, so now I'm going to reload ammo, add ammunition. I have a choice between armor piercing and standard rounds. I didn't bring any armor piercing rounds, so all I have is these. I click on it, and there goes my ammo countdown, 1 minute and 4 seconds. Oh, I thought it was 120, so there you go. Just over a minute with max skill. So now my Strek is reloading. We're just going to kind of hang out while it does that. Once it finishes, we're going to take off and launch a Strek and see how it works. By the way, if you watched the first tutorial, I mentioned that defense crystals are very important. See this right here? I've got 4 on my ship because last night I was dragon hunting in the dragon stronghold. If you ever go to a place with lots of dragons, fit many of these, and although the game is fairly new, I'm sure PvP will become a big play later on. You're going to want to bring a whole bunch of these with you and even more in your cargo bay. Just a suggestion. Okay, my Strek is finished refueling. I'm ready to take off. Alright, I'm floating. Now, in the other 2 tutorials, I showed you how to automatically send your ship to a place. Since we're here, I might as well show you how to manually fly your ship. So what we're going to do is we're going to ascend to, let's say, 1,500 yards. Why not? You'll notice it doesn't give you a unit of measurement. It's just 122. It doesn't say yards, feet, meters, inches, centimeters. It doesn't say anything. So I'm assuming it's yards because my descent and ascent rates are measured in yards per minute. Although I was told by a GM that these numbers represent miles, meaning I'm going 1.5 miles up. So while I go up, I'm going to use my arrow keys to turn my ship the other way. If you look on my map, all of civilization is over here. I'm going to try to head out of civilization because I need to go back to the dragon area and get revenge for last night. So here I am. My arrow is now pointed pretty much squarely east. Remember, this is just like steering an actual ship. It's very slow, and when you let go of the steering button, it's going to keep turning for a little while. So you'll get pretty good at judging the speed of your turn. Alright, so here I go. I've used the up arrow key to fully accelerate. I can also just drag my acceleration down and up, which is much quicker, by the way. Remember I spoke earlier of dragon wings. Now I'm not going to use this because, in my honest opinion, this system is very frightening and broken right now. You have to be able to fly your dragon wings perfectly into your Strekalot Bay, which on every ship is in a different place. On this, it happens to be this giant landing bay because this is the equivalent of a carrier, but on like the OX 200, which I learned yesterday, it's underneath. On some ships, it's on the side. So be very careful before you use your dragon wings because they have no engine and they rely on lift to get to your ship. And the moment you leave your ship, it will start ascending unless you have a navigation system, which, like a fool, I have not equipped. Alright, so we are in a safety area now, which means I can openly attack other players, but I will take a massive standing hit if I do. I won't be doing that today, but I will be showing you how to launch your Strek. Now we're going to go back into our hangar by either clicking the button here or the letter K on our keyboard. We're going to click on a single Strek, and we're going to say release the Strekalet. Kind of like releasing the Kraken. There it goes. It's doing a little loop. And now it's going to follow my ship. Something I have noticed that if you click on your Strek, it's already set to guard you. However, I don't think this feature is actually working. It will fly close to you, but it won't really do anything at all. It'll just fly around you for no reason. So to tell your ship to attack something, you need to literally click on the attack button and then click on what you want it to attack. For example, here's a player settlement down here. I can attack them. I won't because my Strek will get shot out of the sky in no time. But for dragons, it's fairly useful. I've kind of found that with dragons, it's hard because they're everywhere. They swarm, and your fighters take damage quickly and they die. I would recommend using Streks primarily for fighting other players or other bases if you have bomber Streks. So we're not going to attack because I don't want to lose reputation yet. Instead, I'm going to tell my Strek to land. Now this is where it gets tricky. I really recommend that you look at your balloon from below rather than from above, because when you tell it to land on your balloon, if you accidentally click a settlement nearby, your Strek will try to land on that settlement and you won't even know it until it blows up. So there's my Strek following behind. I'm going to tell it, hey buddy, land on my balloon. Oh, see that? See how it didn't light up except for in this tiny area? There we go. I had to look at it from above this time because the clouds are in my way. Now my fancy little Strek is going to come flying and landing on my balloon, hopefully. By the way, you might want to slow down. If you're landing fighters on your ship, I recommend stopping completely. Especially if they're low on fuel. If you're flying away, there's a chance that they'll run out of fuel and fall because they don't go much faster than you do. Especially if you're in a recon ship or a fast warship, you're going to outrun your fighters and they'll never catch up to you and they'll die. So when you're using fighters, my recommendation is to fly slow or to stop. That's where fighters with long engine times come in handy in PvP, because you don't want to be stuck in a situation where you're escaping an enemy and you tell your fighters to dock and they all just slowly die because they can't catch up. Alright, there we go. My little guy has flown in and docked. By the way, if they miss, they will simply do a barrel roll, or do a loop rather, and reattempt the landing. Now, I'm going to show you one more thing, which in my opinion is really fun to do. We're going to launch everything. Okay, you'll notice that they're all queued up and they're a gray color in my hangar because even though I have the highest level skill to release them quickly, it still takes some time for them to get off your ship. I think this process looks pretty cool, by the way. I love that graphic of them all zipping around my ship. Streks are very fun once you learn how to use them properly. And for some reason they can fly right through my balloon and not pop it. I'm not going to complain or argue. Alright, we got 3 more on the way out. Now, thank God the devs did put the feature in where you can select all of your Streks at once. You don't have to manually tell them to do things, aside from manually launching them all at once. Or all one at a time. So what we're going to do is we're going to shift-click each and every one of these Streks. Alright, now we're going to tell them to land. Alright, so now they are all going to begin the landing process. And here they come. Unfortunately, there's not a refuel all or rearm all button. I really wish there was, but as of this tutorial, it does not exist. And there we go, my Streks have all landed safely. They've taken no damage, obviously, because they've not been fighting. But they've all used up a little bit of fuel. In this case, 10 out of 150 fuel has been used. So I'm going to have to refuel that or launch it with slightly less fuel than it started with. But that's it for Streks. I hope that helps you guys. I love Streks personally. If you are looking for the best ship for just launching tons of fighters, I believe the Mammoth is the one. That's probably your best one. There are other ships that can launch bombers and torpedo bombers. You can read the Steam guides for that information. And with that, I leave you guys. I hope you have a great day.